You're listening to the Chain Clankers podcast with your hosts, Quentin Ferris and Horatio Gonzalez. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers. Welcome in, everyone, to the Chain Clankers podcast. I'm your host, Q, here as always with Horatio Gonzalez. We've got a fantastic episode for you guys today. Today kind of marks the 1-year anniversary for Horatio slanging some discs and clanking some chains. So I thought it would be pretty fun if we did not like a yearly recap, but maybe a little look back and kind of see some things that we've learned, progressed, where we can go from here, and just some overall tips and tricks that I think could help players of all skill levels. So this is going to be a really fun episode. It's going to be kind of like an interview style where I interview Horatio. If you're looking forward to some more player interviews, definitely make sure you hit the subscribe button right now. We've got some awesome interviews lined up. Just took a little time, now that everyone's back to getting out on the road and touring. We want to respect the professionals' time as much as humanly possible. But we do have a couple of great interviews lined up and coming up, so super excited to drop those and talk with those folk. But today we are going to be talking to Horatio, seeing what all we can learn. Let's bring him on in now. Horatio, how are we doing today, man?
I'm good, Quentin. Pretty excited to kind of look back, review what this year looked like for me, what I could have done better, what I could have, improved on more. And mainly, I don't know, just talk about my first year. It's been an exciting one, and hear kind of your thoughts on what you have seen me or how you have seen me progress in certain ways. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, and I think just a little spoiler, at least in my eyes, I think doing this podcast has honestly helped both of us significantly, right? Being able to talk to these pros, obviously that helps, but it's also one of those things where being held accountable, and if you've ever messaged us on Instagram, 9 times out of 10, I'd say 99,000 million times out of 10, if you ask us a question, we're going to answer. If you want some advice, we're going to answer. If you're, just excited to go to a tournament, we're going to cheer you on, right? The Clanker Gang, as I am officially calling it right here today, the Clanker Gang, we're down for y'all, and we want y'all to be down for us as well. And it really is one of those things where we do appreciate all of y'all. And so, we want to help you guys as much as we can, and I think this could be a really good episode to do so. If you're new to the Clanker Gang and you want to find out how you can join, you can follow us over on Instagram and Twitter at Chain Clankers. We got some awesome content going up over there. If you haven't seen the reel where I really made a really good bid at hitting this super elevated basket, you should go check it out and let me know if you can make that putt. Read the description, let me know if you can make that putt. I'd be really interested to know. I've got another funny reel that I'm going to drop about that basket. It was such a bad time yesterday trying to get it again, and I'm going to show y'all some of the struggles with that basket. But yeah, like I said, make sure you follow us. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a like. Be on the lookout. The next Fantasy Disc Golf episode on YouTube is going to be dropping here pretty quick. I didn't want to do one for Belton just because it wasn't a full, kind of Jomez schedule along with the Disc Golf Network schedule. They only did, the last day live, which was kind of weird. So anytime that Jomez is recording, that's when I think I'm going to do a Fantasy Disc Golf episode. So be on the lookout for that. Very excited for that one. But I think without further ado, let's kind of hop into this interview, Horatio. So where I want to start is, I know I've told the story a little bit. You might have told the story a little bit as well on the show about how you and I kind of both got into disc golf at the same time. So the early part of that story is, we went to go play one time and, you guys had fun and wanted to keep playing it, right? But I want you to go further in that. What was it about that first time playing that made you then want to go to Amazon.com, not a sponsor, and buy some discs and continue to sling? What was it about that event that you're like, man, this is actually really, what was that about? I don't want to put words in your mouth. What happened there?
I mean, I wouldn't say a competitive person, but I'm a person that likes to constantly be improving and finding things that, I enjoy doing and that I can get better at. And this was definitely at a time a year ago, where work was pretty steady, nothing crazy going on at work. Home life was pretty steady, nothing crazy going on. And I get bored very quickly. I have to be doing stuff, or I have to be, working on things. I'm a busybody kind of person. And I literally was, you can ask my wife, but I was like looking into BMX bikes, I think.
You're looking
Yeah,
at a BMX bikes?
yeah, I
That's
needed I
funny.
needed a hobby. I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah, yeah, yeah.
something that, I could get into, I could learn something that was difficult, something that was outside, and something that was fun. And I loved watching guys, on Instagram and stuff, like doing all these tricks. I even started watching YouTube videos, like tutorials on how to do all this stuff. And I didn't even have a bike yet. And I'm the kind of person that if I do something, I'm gonna go at it 110%. And so I was looking at like used bikes, but like which brand new were very expensive, but used, they were cheaper. So like I wasn't gonna get, just some janky bike. I was gonna get like a legit BMX bike because I was gonna do this 100%. But I just never quite did it. And my wife, she thought it was pretty funny. I mean, I'm not an old man, but it just seemed, kind of funny, like a 26-year-old, getting into BMX for the first time, just riding around with some punk kids. Um, and then, Corona happened,
Yeah.
and we went to Nolans. We
Yep.
came back, and then everything was shut down. You guys came down, and you had some plates in a bag, and you were like, "Let's go throw these things around." It's like, sure, why
Yeah.
not? And we went to play, and literally, it like replaced that fix I was looking for. Something that was fun outside and that I could dive deep into and learn. Like I love learning, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've improved so much. I think in this year is because you have to be a student of the craft of anything you do. It doesn't matter what you do. I have tons of hobbies. Like disc golf is just one of them. I wear many hats, but all of them I dive deep into it and I learn as much as I can. And that was YouTube. That was from you, and then from this podcast. But yeah, that's kind of the start, kind of where it went. It was that fix for me. It saved me, I guess, in a way. It was that hobby, and it took over my life. Maybe a little bit too much, but um, probably pretty good thing that I didn't end up on a BMX bike because I
True.
probably would have broken some. I'm
True.
not
This
a
would have been the
spring chicken.
BMX clanking podcast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe,
Maybe
maybe I would
maybe
have.
a YouTube video we can do. We can get on some bikes and try to play disc golf while riding a bike.
Yeah, yeah. I still,
Wouldn't
I
that
still
be
don't have a
funny?
bike, but
Oh,
you
that's
know.
funny.
Maybe I would have gotten you into BMXing,
Yeah,
and then this would be a BMX podcast right now we'd be having.
exactly. Exactly. That would be so funny. Yeah, I remember for that New Orleans trip, I was going to bring my bag, but then I was talked out of it just because there wasn't enough room in the vehicle.
Yeah,
How that trip could have changed so quickly, behind the scenes right there for you folks. But I think that's really cool, right? So you guys went and you bought some discs. They came in, and none of those original discs you bought are in your bag, are they? Could you explain to the folk what those discs were like?
no, those were. I had no idea. Like probably most of you, I had no idea what I was doing. I just went on Amazon, and I'm a true believer. I still am of reviews,
Mm-hmm.
and I just put disc golf sets. I had nothing. All I had to go off of was from what you borrowed me when we went to play, and I knew they looked like that. It was that shape, and I was like, "Oh, these people say that these reviews are good," and it was like $20 for like a starter set.
Yeah,
I don't remember the brand, but
I think
now
it
like
was
I
the
still have
Amazon
those.
brand.
No, no, I think it was Walmart brand
Oh,
maybe,
okay.
but like the cheap set. But yeah, I still have those things, and they're like dog food bowls. Like the putter, like you could use that to feed your dog. It's just like really bad plastic, and yeah, they're not great discs looking back. But I had no idea, and I think I used them a few times, and they were trash. We quickly found out, and then that's when I went back on Facebook. I love Facebook
Mhm.
Marketplace, and I found a guy. He was like, "Oh, I'm selling like 60 of them." like 100 of them for like $60. I was like, damn, that's a deal. That's all I need. I'll be set for life. Still didn't know anything about plastics or brands or anything. I was like, I'll take it, my man. And I think by the time that I actually met up with him, he had already sold some of them. So I ended up getting like 30 something for like $40 or something, which was still really cheap. And they were all like DX plastic. A lot of them were really beat up. So that was actually not bad starting discs. You know, there was a lot of sharks in there, a lot of leopard, which is a really good starter disc. So yeah, that was, and then I started using those to play with. And then, like I said, I just kept learning and kept researching and found out about brands and consistency in plastics, and then that's where I started spiraling out of control with discs.
And the next thing you know, you dropped a band on discs in
And
4 months.
we don't add up. We don't add up. The discs. You know, that's not how it works.
We
But
could start our own little store just from our collection. If we just like wiped our name and number on it, we could easily sell them. But yeah, no, that's really cool. I like that. So I guess that kind of leads me into that, like, how often when you first started playing were you actually like playing? You know what I'm saying? Like, how often were you going out within your first like 2 months?
oh man, once I bought those 40 discs or whatever, um, I bought that Trooper backpack, you know, that 40
Mm-hmm.
on Amazon. It was like the number one sponsored, really good reviews, and it was like $36. Still a good bag, you know. Recommend it. It lasted me only about 6 months. You know, it's not, if you're gonna be beating that thing, it might not last you. But it was a good bag. But once I got the bag and once I got those 40 discs, I started playing every single day. We were in lockdown. We couldn't go anywhere. We were working from home, so I was literally going out, you know, on lunch break and going to the park. I mean, the park is like 6 blocks away from my house, so I started going every single day. I'd go lunch break, and then after work or whenever I was supposed to get off, I would go and play again by myself. But yeah, it was funny because in the middle of the day, I'd be out there, you know, like at noon, and there'd be like one or two other person there. Maybe one of them was actually playing disc golf, and they'd be like, "Oh, I got to go to work in a few. Like, what about you?" And I'm like, "Nah, like I'm just,
Just
I'm
hanging. I'm
just
just
out
out here
here
slanging
playing."
all day.
But I was out there every single day, and I think in my first year, you know, I could probably between 20 to 30 days total that I didn't play
Mm-hmm.
in that first year when I started. And a lot of those days, I was playing twice a day, playing in the weekends. Um, I was playing a lot once I actually started.
Yeah. So, what would you say your number one issue was when you first started playing, or maybe the first thing that you were like, I have to fix this, and why was it? Whatever it was.
Distance easily, um, which then it went down a rabbit hole. But yeah, because I would go play, and I mean, I played with you, and you were getting these things pretty far, and you know, getting birdies and whatnot, and I wasn't able to do that. And I was like, the only way to, you know, be decent at this game is if you can get birdies, if you can get those shots down the hole. And so my struggle at first was I was not getting any distance at all. So then I went back into, you know, researching YouTube, figuring out why I wasn't getting as much distance as I could, which led me to form. And then that's where I got into, you know, recording myself, studying my form, and that's how I slowly began to increase my distance.
So, couple of good episodes if you haven't listened to them already. Our episode with Ezra Aderhold and our episode with Haley King, we both kind of talking about distance and form and those kinds of things. So I don't have actually, you know what? I'll look it up. I'll find out what the official title of those episodes are called. The one with Haley King is Improving Your Disc Golf Form with Haley King, and then the one with Ezra is How to Increase Your Driving Distance with Ezra Aderhold. I recommend checking out both of those episodes. We have a pretty good discussion about distance and your form and things like that. So if you want a couple other resources that we have, at least check those out. I think they're really good. With that, I think something that I noticed first off was kind of like nose angles, right? When I really first started to get back into disc golf, nose angles was something that I really had to pay attention to. And I remember when we first were playing, I was having this issue as well. I think you were having it a little bit where like we would throw the disc and it would just like go straight up and
Oh
you
yeah.
wouldn't really get a whole lot of distance on that. Was there anything that you kind of found along the way that kind of helped you control your nose angles?
Yeah, I think I quickly found out that I was rounding my shot, so instead of pulling through, I was rounding really bad, and I wasn't because I wasn't pulling through, I was releasing really high and trying to throw like a frisbee, so I was trying to do the upwards motion, causing it, to throw up. And I quickly found out that that's why, I was going nose high and just quickly hyzering out and not getting any distance at all.
Yeah. What was there any like drills or anything you did when you were like trying to fix that? Or like maybe let's say if I'm recording myself tomorrow, right? And I'm trying to figure out, okay, I'm struggling throwing, I'm someone who, I should be able to throw 300 feet, right? But I'm only getting to like 180 with like a 7-speed driver. Why is that? And all my shots go up into the sky, then fade out really hard down to the left, right? So what is something that you can look for like when you're rewatching yourself to kind of determine your nose angle or maybe how to fix it or anything like that?
I would say that the first thing that I went to fixing right away was I was trying to do an X step without knowing how to do an X step. And I was trying to, just power and run really quickly. And so to fix that, I went to a standstill. I forced myself, I was like, I'm new, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to get my pull through form correctly. And so I went to a standstill shot every time I went to go play. And I did that for months until I got consistent at that, which that allowed me to be able to control, my pull through, my angle, because I was not focusing on my feet, on my movement. The only thing that I was focusing on was bringing my arm through and the disc and at what angle I was pulling it through at. So it was really slow, really focused, really deliberate. And that helped a ton. And I did that until I was comfortable with my pull through. So I would say that's definitely one thing to look at if you're struggling with, distance or nose angle.
Did you notice a distance increase pretty quickly or kind of how long did it take to get that increase in distance?
Yeah, for sure. After, a few days, since I was playing every single day, after a few days, I noticed a difference. And not only distance, but consistency. I was only focused for about distance at the beginning, but then after increasing my distance, I quickly realized how important consistency was also, and being able to hit that distance, back to back, different shots. And so going to a standstill definitely increased my distance and consistency pretty quickly.
Nice. Would you say that do you have, I guess do you have a side on which is more important to your game right now, distance or consistency?
Mm,
Obviously, you want to have both, but if you have to choose one to work on first, which one would you recommend working on first?
first, I would say distance, because I think that you're going to plateau your distance, like how much you can improve your distance, a lot quicker than you're going to improve your plateau, how much you can get consistently, if that makes sense. Like you're always going to be able to increase how consistent you can get, but once you get your form dialed in and other things, tweaked in your form, once you get your distance to a certain point, it's going to be really hard to continue to exponentially grow your distance. You're going to max out at a certain distance to some point based off your body, your form, and your technique. And I think if you can get your distance down to a point to where you're dangerous enough to play,
Mm-hmm.
some of your local courses, and you can get your distance to that point, then you can start working on your consistency, and you will also increase your distance at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
As to where, if you focus on consistency, it will be a lot harder. It's going to take a lot longer to get the consistency that you want as quickly. That's just going to come with muscle memory and with practice. As to where distance, if you can get your form down, you can figure out, I'm a 250 consistent distance thrower. I'm a 300 thrower. And then after that, it's going to take a lot of work to get to 350 or 400.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say in the beginning for me, it was important to get at least to what some of the other rec players, were throwing, and to be able to at least put myself in competition for getting birdies, because you're not going to be scoring good rounds if you can't get some birdies here and there. And some of these courses, birdies, there's a lot of give me birdies, really, sub 300s, or low 300s. And it was important to get to that point to be able to compete. And then I started focusing on consistency.
Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely remember the course that we, kind of talked about when I did my tournament a couple weeks ago. I remember looking at that course and being like, "Wow, how the heck am I going to get any birdies on this course?" And now it's like, yeah, I could honestly birdie half of this course. So continuing to work at it really does help. I really do like that. Would you say that you were someone who worked on like your driving before you worked on your putting, or did you kind of work your way backwards and kind of try to improve that putting? Where did improving putting kind of come into your mind, I guess?
I would say that I was probably your typical new player, and I was lazy when it came to putting. I still practiced it, I still like would throw extra putts whenever I would play, but I was 90% focused on driving, on my distance and on my, on my shots, on my lines. And putting was kind of just on the back burner, um, until about, I would say, 6, 7 months in, when I realized that your scorecard depends highly on your putting. It doesn't matter if you have a solid drive. If your putting is subpar, if it's really bad, if you have really bad putting, it doesn't matter how good your driving is. You're not going to get that birdie or that par even. So I would say I was way too focused, probably like a lot of new players, they're going to be just focused on driving, distance, getting those shots, and putting is like just on the back burner.
Would you say that it was a mistake to have that mentality, or do you think that if that's the mentality someone has, that's fine? Like if you could go back and do it again, would you try to hyper focus in on that short game and putting before really working on the long game?
Um, yes. I mean, there's only so much time you're going to be able to put towards, you know, how much you're wanting to improve, how much time you're being able to put in the field or on the course. But I would say I would have definitely spent a lot more time putting, because after you've thrown your shot and your drives, you have to finish out the hole. So take those extra, 5 minutes if you can, and carry less drivers with you, and or maybe the same amount of putters and drivers if you can, and throw, 3 to 4 putts per hole. And if I would have done that from the beginning when I was playing every single day, my putting would be so much better today.
Mm-hmm. I feel that. Was there a certain course that you like played every day, or did you kind of try to change it up because you were playing so often? Like, what kind of went into your decision making when playing courses?
I would say location, convenience. When we moved, to where we live in now, we didn't know about the disc golf park that's just down the street. It just happened to be, lucky, I guess, looking at it now. But Yeah, it's a really good course, for where I live in Wichita. I would say, it's in the top, depending on what style you like to play. Personally, it's my favorite here in Wichita just because of the difficulty level
Mm-hmm.
and the fun factor.
Right.
It's not boring. There's trees here and there. There's rivers. There's a just overwater shot, but it's also not extremely difficult. Some buddies or my brother who I've taken to start to play brand new, that's where we that's where we go play, and they can do the whole course. They have the shot that's over the water. They have an alternate shot that doesn't go over the water. It's a different shot, but you can still complete the whole course just as someone that's been playing for years. So it's a really fun course, and I never got tired of it. And that's the one I was playing every single day because it was just quickly for me to get there and be able to play as much as I could. And I still play that course at least 4 to 5 times a week, just
Yeah.
because I can come home, go straight there, not waste any time driving somewhere else, do my round, and then have a 5 minute, less than a 5 minute drive home. So yeah.
Yeah. So earlier you mentioned like competition and you're a competitive guy, right? So could you maybe elaborate a little bit on the competitive side of disc golf? I feel like a lot of new players kind of come into the game and maybe they think that, it's just something you can go out and just, drink some brewskis with the boys if you want to. And obviously some people do that, but like what was kind of the competitive nature for you starting out and like how did that kind of fuel you to keep going, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's obviously, you want to be able to compete with others and prove yourself, but I'm very goal oriented, and I'm going to stay in my lane. So I'm constantly, I guess, competing with myself. And disc golf was something that I could, day after day, try to beat myself, the day prior. Well, I did so and so yesterday or a week ago, can I beat that? And I've continued to do that. I would still go play with buddies or other people, and I'm playing with them, but at the end of the day, I'm competing with myself, and it's like a challenge of like me wanting to improve. And for me, that's the competitive part of it, because so many rounds that I've played, I would say over half of the time I've spent playing disc golf in this last year has been by myself. And I mean, I guess not played, but I did track in high school, and that's one of those sports, where you're by yourself on certain events. There's no teammates, so you're only going to be able to do as well as um, you yourself can do. And that's one thing I love about disc golf is I can go out there, play by myself, and see if I can beat myself. I don't need anyone else out there. I don't need to worry about what else other people are doing. It's just me.
Yeah, I get that. So I guess that kind of leads me into, do you remember maybe what like your first recorded round at the course you typically play at? What like do you have any idea of like what your stroke
Mm.
gainage has been in a year?
Uh, that's a low blow. That's a
Well,
low
no, no,
blow,
no, no. It's not. It's
right?
not intended to be a low blow. It's intended to be a. I have
No.
improved
Yeah, yeah.
X amount of strokes in a year.
No.
Here's how I did it.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Um, I would say I probably had worst, but when we did a tournament, which was in the middle of the year, so only 4 to 5 months into me starting to play, one of my rounds, I think I was plus 26 on that course.
Mm-hmm.
And that was there was a lot of OB, but it wasn't a crazy abnormal round for me. It was about just where I was at. And I think, yeah. And then after that, I got to the point where I was shooting around 10 to 12 consistently after a few months. I was really upset with that round, which was in a tournament. And then I really focused on my form and a little bit more on my putting, and I got to where I was consistently plus 10, plus 12 at that course. And now, a year in, I'm to the point where I am consistently plus one, plus four. If I have a bad day, I'm at plus five. My personal record there at the course is, minus one. Um, and that's playing the mix of the holes there between longs and shorts. I would say half and half. But so yeah, I've cut my strokes by
25.
yeah,
25 in a year.
yeah.
So is there maybe one like tip that you kind of haven't discussed so far that helped you cut 25 strokes in a year?
I just continuing continuing to show up every day. With a lot of stuff, it's just showing up and putting the work in. Um, these guys that you see on Joe Mesh or whatever, or even local guys, they've been playing for years, and that's one thing that really messed me up at the beginning. Is I wanted to be as best as possible, as quickly as possible, and I wouldn't say I cut corners, but I wasn't focusing on the right things. Whereas to now, I'm really focusing on the dynamics, and the podcast interview we did with Cynthia, she did a really good. She talked about this and about other sports. Um, Kids will be like students of the sport, of ballet or whatever they're doing. They'll learn it and learn how to do it correctly from professionals or from teachers. As to where disc golf, people just go out there and play it, figure it out, and do the best they can. And I would say that in the beginning, I was kind of like that, but I was also just playing. Oh, this is fun. I'm getting better. Cool. It wasn't until 6, 7 months in where I started taking it really seriously and really being truthful with myself and wanting to correct a lot of my mistakes.
Nice. So I've got one question on this topic, and then I've got another topic I want to talk about before we get into the ace round. Staying right here, what kind of drills have you been doing lately, or practice things that you've been doing lately to kind of continue to help and refine your game and continuing to improve, cutting those 25 strokes? What are some things that maybe you've been doing in the field that might help some other folk?
Um, I wouldn't really say it's a drill, but I would say going and playing, continuing to go and play by myself, with headphones where I'm not as in my head and I'm focusing on one thing. A lot of pros would talk about this when they're saying for new players to learn, focus on fixing one thing. And that's what I've started to do a lot recently. Is I go out and I'm working on my form, I will focus on that single thing every single shot for my whole round, as opposed to trying to fix everything at once. Um, and I'll do that with with headphones in, listening to music, and I'll focus on it, but I won't put too much thought into it, and really relaxing my body and my muscles, and that has showed a ton of improvement.
Nice. So the last little topic I want to talk about, and it's not to toot our own horn, but I want to talk about the podcast side of
Hmm.
things, right? So why did you decide to get into this?
Into the podcast.
Yeah. And me bullying you into doing it is not an acceptable answer.
I would say just back to what I've been talking about is I just like to, you know, immerse myself as much as possible in what I'm doing and what I'm wanting to learn. I want to go into 110%. And what better way than to bring professionals on who we can learn from firsthand, and ask them questions, which help other people. But reality, we're being we're being selfish. We want to learn firsthand. And I would say, yeah, just wanting to be a student and to help other people, because I was seeing a
Yeah.
lot of the mistakes I was making, and I was like, well, we can, put this on a platform and help other new players and help them avoid these mistakes.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you're someone who even you sit through the interviews, you sit through the episodes we do together, but yet go back and still listen to the episode.
Mm-hmm.
One, for see how we can get better, but also two, because there's so much stuff to learn. And again, I don't want this to come off as a toot our own horn here, but I really do think finding our podcast, subscribing right now, kind of trying to see what more you can learn, I think that's really important, because disc golf is at a juncture right now where there's not a ton of professional coaches, right? If any, realistically. So I really think that we can provide a unique spin of being in the trenches with y'all right now and showing you what we're doing, showing you what works, bringing on pros to see what they're doing that works, how to check yourself before you wreck yourself out on the course, those kinds of things. So my next kind of like question for the podcasting game, and then we'll kind of get into the ace round after this, is what do you want to continue to see? What do you think, if someone were to hit that subscribe button right now, check out another episode, what do you think they would be getting by doing that?
They would be getting more, insight from professionals who have been playing the sport for years, some of them even decades. We're only going to be able to provide you so much. We're we're making mistakes and you're going to learn from that, but there's a lot of mistakes we haven't made yet. And some of these pros have. You're going to learn from these pros. You're going to learn from our personal experiences. And when you have a bad day out at the course, or during practice you have a rough day, you'll be able to come on here, listen, and know that it's not you. It's a lot of players out here, and we love this game. And at the end of the day, we do it for fun, but we also want to improve. And you're going to get that from the show.
Yeah, true that. True that. I really do want to think of it as a resource for anyone at any skill level to get better, because you might be sitting there right now and be like, whatever, I'm good at disc golf right now, I don't need any of this. I think there's always room to improve, and I think it's in anything you do, but especially disc golf, because that's what we're talking about right now. When you stop trying to learn, when you stop trying to get better, that's when you truly plateau, and that's when you only go into a decline. And that's something we want to avoid. We always want to keep finding a way to get better. Maybe you're struggling at X today. All right, let's fix it. Let's work on it. That kind of thing. So yeah, I think we're ready to get into the ace round. I don't think you have answered these ace round questions yet, so I'm super excited to be asking them to you here. So let's start here. You're taking a buddy to go buy their first set of discs. What is one putter, one mid range, and one driver you would tell them to pick up?
All right. So one putter. This was something that someone told me, 3 or 4 months into playing. When I started, I used to putt with a AVR X3, which is overstable. And someone told me to get something that was understable, something that was straight. And I did switch to that, and it helped me out a ton. I love the Warden, just in the classic plastic, but a lot of it is going to be personal, preference, what feels good. But I would say Warden for a putter, for a mid, a Mako 3. Those things are, it's like a cheat code. If you're just starting and you don't have too much power and you definitely want to get your form right from the beginning, Mako 3 is a super awesome mid. Um, and a driver, I would say a lightweight Hades. I know that's the disc that probably made me gain the most confidence and has allowed me to have a lot of fun out on the course, because it allows me to get a ton of distance, and it will correct you, throwing if your form is off. It's a very understable disc, so if your form is wrong, it will correct you. But once you can figure it out, there's so much stuff you can do with that disc.
Nice. Second question we got for you. What is your favorite course you've played and one course you want to play?
My favorite course I've played, I would say Oak Park here in Wichita, Kansas. I've played it over 100 times and I still enjoy it. One course I would love to play is Smuggler's Notch. I watch, some coverage of that, and it just looks incredible. I love mountains, so that's my two.
Nice. Third question, what is one tip you would give yourself if you could go back to when you first started to take disc golf seriously? That one tip that you wish you would have known.
Don't quit. Don't quit watching YouTube videos. There's some where you think, wow, this is a really good YouTube video and it teaches me everything I need to know. And then you find some other ones that say something completely different and you learn something else. Like I recently just found one like 2-3 months ago that has helped me improve my form a ton. It's something like the pull through or the reach back is fake. I don't remember who put it out, but it's a quick little video and it just talks about the reach back. And because I think I was really exaggerating my reach back and it was causing me to turn stuff over quite a bit. And it caused me to create this really bad form. But yeah, I would say just continue to watch YouTube videos.
Nice. What is our fourth question here? What is your favorite memory playing disc golf?
Favorite memory playing disc golf? I would say just those days where I can't think of one specifically, but just those days where I'm out with buddies or my brother or whoever. I'm not even playing to compete or anything, but like the weather is perfect and literally like I'm out there just enjoying myself.
Nice.
Like, yeah.
Nice. The fifth and final question we've got for you, what is the biggest mistake you see new players making?
Going to the next step right away. I did it. It wasted a lot of time where I could have been improving my form. You're gonna want to start practicing it and learning how to do it eventually, but I would say first it's more important to learn on your pull through, and just learning your grip, nose angles, that kind of stuff, and then learn, and because once you have that foundation, you can go into your timing and your X step.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Be on the lookout. Hit that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. We are going to be having some awesome interviews coming up. We've got at least 3 or 4 lined up right now with a couple more invitations out. So it's definitely going to be a good month to learn something, and you're going to want to make sure you want to do it here with the Chain Clankers. We've got a ton of exciting stuff happening. I'm almost in Wichita, so we're going to have a bunch of YouTube content going up this summer. Our YouTube page is going to be absolutely popping. So if you haven't subscribed over there, I definitely would. I have a ton of ideas for YouTube videos I want to make, as well as I got the fantasy disc golf videos coming out here as well this week. Leave a like rating if you haven't already. And guys, if you enjoy this podcast, let us know. Take a screenshot of you listening to it on Instagram, tag us on your story or something like that. That'd be really cool. As well as if you do listen on Apple Podcasts, it takes 3 seconds, right? Leave us a nice little rating, review. Let us know what you think, what you want to see. We really do appreciate that. That gives us the feedback in order to get better, because I think we both can agree we're people who want to constantly get better, and we want to continue to provide a better product to you guys. So your feedback definitely is very helpful for that, and we do appreciate y'all. And yeah, that's really all I've got this week, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you for listening to the Chain Clankers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers, and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us from so you never miss another episode.